Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about something that we often overlook in the hustle of life: your worth. Too often we allow ourselves to be used by people, situations, and even our own fears. We give pieces of ourselves away without realizing that we are worthy of so much more than just being used. But let me tell you this: you are not a tool for someone else's convenience. You are not a pawn in a game that was never meant for you. God has equipped you with purpose, with power, and with a destiny that can't be diminished by the whims of others. Now, I know that it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we have to bend, break, and sacrifice our peace to make everyone else happy. But what if I told you that it's okay to say no? What if I told you that it's time for you to stop living like your value is defined by how much you give, how much you endure, or how much you sacrifice for others? It's time for you to rise up. It's time for you to refuse to be used. It's time for you to recognize that your value is not determined by others' needs, but by the calling God placed on your life before you even took your first breath. You were meant to thrive, to flourish, to live with intention and clarity. And today I want to help you take a step closer to that. So let's begin by refusing to be used and start choosing to live on purpose. Your worth is not something that can be defined by anyone else's standards or opinions. It is intrinsic, built into the very fabric of who you are, and it is unshakable. Yet too many of us spend a lifetime allowing others to dictate our value based on their expectations, demands, or actions. We get caught up in the cycle of seeking validation from others, thinking that the more we give, the more we are worth. We convince ourselves that our value lies in our ability to please others, to show up in ways that fit their needs, and to silence our own desires in favor of theirs. But what if I told you that your worth was never meant to be measured by how much you could give, how much you could sacrifice, or how many people you could make happy? It's important to understand that your worth is not tied to what you do for others. It is not wrapped up in the titles you hold, the jobs you perform, or the roles you play in people's lives. Whether you're a mother, a daughter, a friend, a colleague, or a partner, your value doesn't lie in the ways you serve others, but in who you are at your core. You are valuable because you are uniquely created with purpose. Your worth is a reflection of the love and intention that went into your existence, and nothing can strip that away unless you allow it. So many of us carry around the weight of seeking approval. We base our actions on what others might think or how we might be perceived, constantly measuring our success and worth through the lens of external validation. But what happens when you don't get that validation? What happens when you're left feeling unseen, unappreciated, or even used? If your worth is dependent on the approval of others, you will always be at the mercy of their judgments. And your sense of self will be fragile, constantly shifting with each new interaction. When you know your worth, you are no longer reliant on others' opinions of you. You stop seeking permission to be who you are. You understand that no amount of praise or criticism can alter the truth of who you are. This is a transformative mindset, one that frees you from the need to prove yourself or justify your value. You begin to walk in the confidence that comes from within, knowing that no matter what anyone says or does, you are enough. This internal confidence doesn't come from arrogance or entitlement. It comes from the deep understanding that your worth is inherent, that it is not earned, and it cannot be taken away by anyone but yourself. When you truly know your worth, you begin to see the world differently. You stop allowing toxic relationships, draining situations, and people who don't appreciate you to have any power over your emotional and mental well-being. You stop settling for less than you deserve because you know that you are worthy of respect, love, and kindness. This doesn't mean that you won't make mistakes or face difficult situations, but it does mean that you will handle them with the understanding that your worth remains intact, regardless of the challenges you face. This knowledge of your worth allows you to be discerning about the people you allow into your life and the situations you allow yourself to be involved in. You no longer tolerate disrespect or manipulation because you understand that you don't have to earn the right to be treated well. You simply are worthy of it. You learn to say no when necessary, to protect your time and energy, and to establish boundaries that honor your own needs and desires. When you know your worth, you no longer feel obligated to accommodate everyone else at the expense of your own peace. Part of knowing your worth is also understanding that it's okay to take up space in this world. Too often we shrink ourselves to make others feel comfortable or to fit into societal expectations. We downplay our achievements, our talents, and our ambitions because we don't want to seem too big or bold. But when you know your worth, you no longer need to minimize your light in order to make someone else feel better about theirs. You begin to live unapologetically, embracing your unique qualities and your gifts without hesitation. The world needs the full expression of who you are, not a watered-down version of yourself that you've created in an attempt to avoid judgment or criticism. Knowing your worth also means accepting your flaws and imperfections. It's not about being perfect or having it all together. It's about understanding that your worth isn't diminished by your mistakes you are worthy in spite of your flaws, and embracing who you are, even in your imperfection, is part of the journey toward becoming the best version of yourself. The beauty of knowing your worth is that you no longer have to be ashamed of your imperfections. Instead, you can see them as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. You understand that every part of your journey, whether it's smooth or messy, contributes to your overall worth. When you know your worth, you start to live with intention. You make choices that align with your values, your purpose, and your dreams. You no longer make decisions out of fear or obligation. Instead, you make them out of love and respect for yourself. You begin to take control of your life, refusing to let anyone or anything dictate your path. This doesn't mean that you won't face challenges or setbacks, but it does mean that you approach them with the confidence that you have everything within you to overcome them. When you know your worth, you take ownership of your life and stop letting external circumstances define who you are or where you're going. In the end, knowing your worth is about embracing your identity and stepping into your power. It's about understanding that you don't need anyone's approval to live boldly and authentically. It's about recognizing that you are worthy simply because you exist and that your value is not contingent on anything external. When you truly know your worth, you can't be swayed by the opinions of others. You live according to your truth, unapologetically, and you demand that others recognize your value as well. This is the power that comes from truly knowing who you are and embracing the strength that lies within you. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-love you can practice. Too often, we find ourselves trapped in situations or relationships where our time, energy, and emotional well-being are drained because we fail to set the necessary limits to protect ourselves. We say yes when we really want to say no. We overextend ourselves trying to meet everyone else's needs, and we compromise our values and beliefs to avoid conflict or disappointment. But setting boundaries is not about being selfish or unkind. It's about recognizing that in order to give our best to others, we first must protect our own peace and mental health. It's about realizing that you are worthy of respect, and that respect starts with how you allow others to treat you. At its core, setting boundaries is about defining what is acceptable and what is not in your relationships, in your work, and in your life in general. It's about knowing your limits and communicating them to others in a way that honors your own needs. Boundaries aren't walls that isolate us from others. They are tools that create healthy, sustainable connections by allowing space for mutual respect and understanding. When we fail to set boundaries, we open the door for others to take advantage of our time, energy, and resources, often leaving us feeling depleted and unappreciated. For many of us, the idea of setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable. We've been conditioned to think that saying no is rude or unkind, or that we have to be constantly available to others to prove our worth. There is a deep fear of disappointing others, of being seen as selfish, or of losing relationships if we assert our needs. But the truth is that boundaries aren't about rejecting others. They're about accepting and honoring yourself. When you set boundaries, you are making a declaration that you matter, that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and that you are worthy of being treated with the same respect that you offer to others. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing that it's okay to say no. This may sound simple, but for many people, saying no feels like an impossible task. We fear rejection, judgment, or conflict. And so we say yes to things that drain us, even when we don't have the time, energy, or desire to give. But the reality is that saying yes when you really want to say no only leads to resentment, frustration, and burnout. When you say yes out of obligation rather than genuine desire, you end up giving less than your best, and both you and the person you're helping miss out on a meaningful, authentic exchange. Saying no, on the other hand, allows you to show up fully for what truly matters to you, whether that's your own well-being, your loved ones, or your passions. Setting boundaries also means recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving and never taking time to replenish yourself, you will eventually burn out. It's essential to prioritize self-care and make time for activities that recharge you. Whether it's spending time alone, engaging in a hobby, exercising, or simply resting, self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's essential to being able to care for others. When you don't set boundaries around your own well-being, you risk losing the very energy that enables you to show up in a meaningful way for the people you love and the things you care about. Another key aspect of setting boundaries is being clear and direct in communicating your needs. Often we struggle with boundaries because we hope others will intuitively understand what we need without us having to say anything. But the reality is that people cannot read our minds, and many of us fail to communicate our limits because we fear their reaction. Whether it's a colleague asking for more of your time or a friend demanding too much emotional support, it's essential to express your boundaries in a clear, respectful way. This doesn't mean being harsh or dismissive. It simply means communicating with honesty and clarity about what you can and cannot offer. You are not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries, but you are responsible for honoring yourself and protecting your own peace. In addition to protecting your time and energy, setting boundaries also means standing firm in your values and beliefs. In a world that often pressures us to conform, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters to us. We may find ourselves in situations where we feel compelled to compromise our integrity or our values in order to fit in or gain approval. But the more you allow others to push you beyond your limits, the more you risk losing touch with who you really are. Setting boundaries around your beliefs and values is an act of self-respect. It's about refusing to allow external influences to shape your identity or make you question your worth. When you stand firm in your values, you create a life that aligns with your authentic self, and you attract people and opportunities that resonate with your truth. Sometimes the boundaries we set may be with ourselves. We can be our own worst enemies, pushing ourselves beyond healthy limits, whether that's working too much, sacrificing our needs for others, or constantly striving for perfection. In these cases, setting boundaries means learning to say no to the things that don't serve us and saying yes to the things that nurture and support our growth. It means recognizing when we're overextending ourselves and taking a step back to evaluate our priorities. Setting boundaries with yourself is about creating a life of balance where you allow space for rest, joy, and personal growth instead of constantly living in a cycle of stress and pressure. As you begin to set boundaries, it's important to remember that they may not always be respected by others, especially at first. People who are used to having access to your time, energy, or resources may resist your boundaries or try to push past them. This is where your inner strength and resolve are tested. You have to be willing to uphold your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable, even when others try to guilt you or make you feel bad for asserting your needs. The more you practice setting and enforcing boundaries, the easier it becomes, and the more respect you will earn from others, including yourself. Over time, people will begin to understand that you are a person who values yourself and your time, and they will learn to respect your limits. Setting boundaries is not about closing yourself off from others. It's about creating healthier, more balanced relationships. When you set clear boundaries, you allow others to show up in a way that is authentic and respectful, and you give yourself the space to do the same. Boundaries create the conditions for mutual respect, honesty, and understanding, which are the foundation of any meaningful connection. They are an essential part of building a life that reflects who you truly are, rather than living according to other people's expectations or demands. By setting and enforcing boundaries, you take control of your life and begin to live with intention, integrity, and respect for yourself and others. Choosing empowerment is one of the most important decisions you can make in your life. It's a mindset that shifts you from being a passive participant in your own story to becoming an active creator of your destiny. When you choose empowerment, you step into your own power. You claim ownership of your life, and you begin to make decisions that align with your deepest desires and values, rather than allowing circumstances or other people to dictate your choices. This shift in mindset transforms the way you approach life's challenges, opportunities, and relationships, creating a foundation of strength and self-determination. At the core of choosing empowerment is the understanding that you are not a victim of your circumstances. Life is full of ups and downs, challenges and setbacks. We all face moments of hardship, disappointment, and pain. However, empowerment comes from knowing that even in the face of adversity, you still have the ability to control how you respond. You are not defined by the challenges you encounter, but by how you choose to rise above them. Empowerment comes from taking responsibility for your own actions, emotions, and choices, and realizing that you have the ability to transform your reality no matter what's happening around you. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start recognizing your own agency, you begin to reclaim your power. Choosing empowerment also means recognizing that you are worthy of success, happiness, and fulfillment. For many people, especially women, there is a tendency to downplay our own potential or hold ourselves back out of fear of judgment, failure, or the expectations of others. We often convince ourselves that we are not worthy of reaching for our dreams or that we don't deserve the success we desire. But choosing empowerment means rejecting these limiting beliefs and embracing the truth that you have every right to pursue your passions, your goals, and your vision for your life. You are just as deserving as anyone else of achieving greatness, and your worth is not defined by the approval of others. The moment you make the decision to believe in your worth is the moment your entire reality begins to shift. Part of choosing empowerment is letting go of fear and doubt. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that holds us back from fully stepping into our potential. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, it all keeps us stuck in a cycle of hesitation and self-doubt. But when you choose empowerment, you acknowledge that fear is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to control you. Fear doesn't go away, but you learn to move forward in spite of it. Empowerment means taking action even when you're scared, trusting that you have the strength and resilience to handle whatever comes your way. It's about shifting your mindset from one of fear and scarcity to one of abundance and possibility. The more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you build confidence in your ability to face challenges head on and come out stronger on the other side. Another key element of choosing empowerment is understanding that you are in control of your narrative. Life doesn't always go as planned, and you can't always control what happens to you. However, you do have control over how you respond to what life throws at you. Choosing empowerment means taking control of your own story, refusing to let past mistakes, failures, or negative experiences define who you are or what you're capable of. It's about reclaiming your power to shape your future, regardless of what's happened in the past. You have the ability to write the next chapter of your life, and it's up to you to decide what that looks like. Empowerment comes from taking ownership of your story and using your experiences, both good and bad, as fuel for growth, resilience, and transformation. Choosing empowerment also involves being intentional with your energy and your time. We all have limited resources, and how we choose to invest our energy can determine the trajectory of our lives. Empowerment means recognizing that you have the ability to direct your energy toward things that align with your values and goals and away from things that drain or distract you. It's about being intentional with your choices and creating a life that reflects your highest priorities. You begin to say no to things that don't serve you, and you say yes to opportunities that bring you closer to your vision for your life. This intentionality creates a sense of purpose and clarity, allowing you to stay focused on what truly matters to you. The more you align your energy with your purpose, the more empowered you become. Another critical aspect of choosing empowerment is learning to trust yourself. Self-doubt is a powerful force that can undermine your confidence and keep you from making bold decisions. When you doubt your abilities, you hesitate to take risks and you second-guess yourself, which can hold you back from achieving your full potential. Empowerment comes from learning to trust your instincts, your wisdom, and your decisions. It's about knowing that you have everything you need within you to succeed, and that even if you stumble along the way, you have the strength to get back up and keep moving forward. Trusting yourself means letting go of the need for constant approval from others and relying on your inner voice to guide you. The more you trust yourself, the more empowered you become to take action and make choices that are aligned with your true self. Choosing empowerment also means embracing your uniqueness and celebrating what makes you different. Too often we are taught to fit into boxes, to conform to societal expectations, and to downplay our individuality in order to fit in. But empowerment comes from embracing who you truly are and owning your uniqueness. It's about accepting that your strengths, quirks, and differences are what make you special and that there is no one else in the world like you. When you embrace your uniqueness, you begin to live authentically without apology or fear of judgment. Empowerment means stepping into the fullness of who you are and allowing the world to see you for exactly who you are, not a watered-down version of yourself. Choosing empowerment also means taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of care, love, and attention, and that you deserve to prioritize your own well-being. When you take care of yourself, you are better equipped to handle life's challenges, serve others, and pursue your dreams. Empowerment means creating a life that nurtures your mind, body, and soul, and not sacrificing your well-being for the sake of others or for the sake of meeting external expectations. Self-care is a vital part of empowerment because it replenishes your energy, helps you stay grounded, and allows you to show up as the best version of yourself. In essence, choosing empowerment is about reclaiming your power and becoming the person you were always meant to be. It's about stepping into your fullest potential, making choices that reflect your true desires and values, and living a life that is aligned with your purpose. Empowerment is not a destination, it's a journey of constant growth, self-discovery, and transformation. It's a commitment to never settling for less than you deserve, to trust yourself, to embrace your uniqueness, and to stand firm in your worth. Every decision you make, every step you take can be an act of empowerment when you choose to live with intention, confidence, and self-respect. Empowerment comes from within, and once you choose it, your life will never be the same.